Hello and welcome to the Feck It Fun, Fabulous and Free Eating Disorder Recovery podcast. I'm Helly and I'm here to provide regular bursts of information and inspiration, some neuroscience applicable to eating disorder recovery, perhaps a few rants, but otherwise lots of positivity with a bit of a feck it attitude, some fun and a sprinkling of fabulousness to help everyone find freedom in recovery. Hi, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Feck It Fun, Fabulous and Free Eating Disorder Recovery podcast. Today is just a short episode in which I want to talk a little bit about unrestricted eating and why unrestricted eating is for the rest of your life. Unrestricted eating is not just something you do in recovery. And I think a lot of people get stuck on that. I think there's always this fear that once you're recovered, you stop eating without restriction and you go back to some form of restricted eating again. And so people are frightened almost to get recovered because they're frightened of having to go back to the misery that is eating with restriction once again. But it doesn't work like that. Recovery doesn't work like that. You eat unrestrictedly in recovery, and then you eat unrestrictedly for the rest of your life when you are recovered. And, I understand this because I have been there. Because if you were like me and you've been in traditional eating disorder treatment, then perhaps like me, once upon a time, you were handed a meal plan that was for weight gain. And you were told you will eat this meal plan and you will gain X amount of weight a week. And once you hit this magic weight that somehow the experts know that you'll be recovered at, when you hit that weight, then you will go down to a maintenance meal plan of even less food that was on the crummy so-called weight gain meal plan. And then you will stay on this maintenance amount of food, which quite frankly wouldn't be enough to feed a little sparrow, and you'll stay on that maintenance amount of food for the rest of your life. So if, like me, you've been under this approach in the past, it might have scared you into believing that when you are recovered by a BMI chart or by a magic number on a set of scales and by expert opinion, that it means that you will have to really control and restrict your intake again for the rest of your life. Because you've been told that even if you were hungry, above that meal plan or above that amount of food that some dietitian who doesn't know about your body has given you, because you've been told that that plan is enough food for your body, and the plan obviously knows better than your body, then that's what you believe, because we are brought up, we are raised to believe professionals when they give us advice. We are told that doctors know best. And largely, yes, doctors do know best on some things. But when it comes to eating disorder recovery, unfortunately, historically, a lot of the professionals in the past, I really hope it's going to change, but a lot of professionals in the past don't necessarily know best. And they certainly don't know about what eating is required for eating disorder recovery and what a person who's then maintaining that recovery needs to eat for the rest of their lives. So if you have had that fear instilled in you by people who should have been treating you in the past, then I'm sorry. That should never have happened. It's not forgivable that you and I and many others have been treated in that way and have had this approach instilled in us, been told that we should only be eating this very low amount of food, and that has actually made our eating disordered thoughts worse because we then believe that we're going to have to restrict for life. Because ultimately that type of treatment approach is one that leaves those of us exposed believing and fearing that we're going to be living out the rest of our days supposedly recovered, but still having to restrict our intake and still, quite frankly, on the amount of food they tell us you should be able to survive on, you would be bloody hungry for the rest of your life. And if you've had a restrictive eating disorder, then you know how miserable it is to be bloody hungry all the time. So I'm here to say no. You do not have to live out your days hungry. You can feed your body unrestrictedly for the rest of your days from today. And in true recovery, grasping the concept and really allowing yourself to believe it, that unrestricted eating is something you can enjoy for the rest of your life, is so essential. And it is true. Unrestricted eating is something you have to do in recovery. And in recovery, coming from a place of restriction, no matter what your BMI is, no matter what your weight, what your body shape is, coming from that place of restriction, in eating disorder recovery, it's very likely that eating unrestrictedly is going to look like eating a heck of a lot of food. Many people in eating disorder recovery eat well beyond 10,000 calories a day, well beyond that amount of food. And that is okay. That is what your body needs at that point in time. But then when you are mentally and physically recovered, you keep eating without any restriction on what you eat, when you eat, how much you eat. But you'll just find that your body will naturally stop wanting to eat all the food in the hypermarket in one sitting. It's not going to drive you to eat above 10,000 calories a day for the rest of your life. It's going to drive you to eat enough food for what it needs at that point of time. And that's, likely to just be a reasonably good amount of food, but not a crazy amount of food. So this is to reassure all of you, no matter what treatment you've had before, unrestricted eating is for life. You'll always be able to eat as much food as your brain and body ask you for. It's just going to look different as you progress through recovery and when you're recovered. You don't have to ever be hungry again, ever in your life. So eat unrestrictedly now, eat unrestrictedly for your recovery, get recovered, and just know that unrestricted eating is for life and not just for recovery. So I really hope that that little bit of motivation has pushed you into a bit more unrestricted eating for today. And you're going to go out there now and blast it. Get eating unrestrictedly, stay eating unrestrictedly, never be hungry again. And just go for it. Let yourself be recovered and let yourself have a life back. I'm Helly Barnes. If you want to know more about my coaching, you can find out more about me on hellybarnes.com. And otherwise, I'll speak to you soon. Thank you for listening to the Feck It Fun, Fabulous and Free Eating Disorder Recovery podcast. Don't forget, eating disorder recovery doesn't have to be boring and doesn't have to be serious. Now go and grab yourself some food and have a fabulous rest of the day.